Welcome to another online class for STIW2044 mobile programming, and today I would like to talk about Fragment. Fragment is basically one of the interesting graphical user interface that allow for the activity or for layout to be what we call as nested into another layout. The fragment started from Android 3, whereas in Android 3, the honeycomb version, they needed interface that's suitable for bigger screen, for tablet, for screen sizes. They come out with a Fragment to allow for the application to have multiple layout. Fragment come into the picture. So today I would like to talk about the Fragment example, and particularly using tab layout. So for example here, this application implemented multiple tab layout. So I do have 3 tab layout here. So the first tab layout with the following fragment, the second tab with 1 edit text and 1 button, and also with the third tab with 1 edit text and also 1 button, that represent 3 different fragments. So how do we implement this? So I start with a basic with a new project with empty layout. So I started with activity main. So here in activity main, there are 2 components in the activity. So the component is tab layout and also pager. So tab layout, this is where we define or we use the palette here to look for the tab layout. Initially, by default, tab layout is not in the Android Studio, so you need to download this package. It's quite simple. Basically, you just press, there's a small button here, but download button here to install and download the component into your project, into your Android Studio. So you just add this into the layout, and also another one here is a view pager. So view pager also available here. So you just drag and drop, and you need to provide ID for the pager, and also for the tab layout also ID for tab layout, so that later when we refer through programming, we can access both of these components. And then for the fragment, so each of the fragment, they have their own layout. So fragment main, fragment second, fragment third. So each of the fragment contain 2 components. Okay, so fragment, this is text view, and this is a button, and I purposely use a vertical linear layout for easy management. Alright, so button for fragment 1, button for fragment 2, and button for fragment 3. So I would like to show how to access through programming all these buttons. Alright, so that's it for the layout. what you need for each layout later is that you need to have the class that handle the fragment. Okay, so this is there are 3 fragment classes here: tab fragment 1, tab fragment 2, and tab fragment 3, and each correspond to layout. Fragment main for tab fragment 1, fragment second for tab fragment 2, and tab fragment 3 for fragment third. Okay, main, second, and third. So if you look into fragment, for example, tab fragment 1, it basically extend fragment. Okay, so there are 2 methods here. It's very important methods. So the first method is on create view. So inside the on create view, the code here basically return back the inflate the layout that refers to the fragment main, this fragment, right? And also another override method called on activity created. Just ignore the button first. This button basically, if you like to refer to if you like to use or refer to the component inside of each layout. So for example, here you have button, so I'm referring to the fragment button here. This is button. So I want to use the button and access the button on click. So when I click the button, hello from fragment 1. So those are the operations I would like to handle. Alright, so you need 2 override method. So I just use 2 override method, but there are plenty of method belong to fragment, but this basically the basic method that allow you the life cycle of fragment that you can use as basic. Right, so each of the tab fragment also contain the same. So you can see here for tab fragment 2, so the same. What you need to do is change this layout, and also tab fragment 3, which refer to the fragment third in the layout inflator, and also for the on activity created. So each button here referring to the button in tab fragment 3. So you can see the button here, this is the button that I'm referring to, button 3. Alright, so that is basically for each of the layout. So whatever programming you would like to introduce, you need to do it inside of each fragment. And forgot to mention about this, whenever you like to access the button ID, you need to use get activity. Okay, so it basically referring to that particular fragment. So you cannot just use find view by ID straight away. You need to focus on the get activity inflated for this fragment. Alright, so done on that part. Another class that very important is a pager class. Okay, this is basically handling the tab, the tab operation, the tab fragment. So here the pager adapter that extend fragment state pager adapter. So inside here there's an override method. This is a pager adapter. The method that you need to have this. This is another override method here. This is a fragment method. This is a fragment and get item. So this is where we switch. Whenever we switch, we get item from our tab. So we switch. There are 3 tabs that we have in our activity. So tab 1, tab 2, tab 3, and each referring to the class that we use. Fragment 1, tab fragment 2, and tab fragment 3 here. And you need to return tab 1. Okay, you need to return tab 1, and your library for the fragment, I use v4 app fragment. So that basically for the pager adapter. This is my main activity. So here you can see that inside my onCreate method, so this is where I define the tab layout, and then add layout, new tab. So there are 3 tabs here: tab 1, tab 2, tab 3. This is the pager. So the pager, view pager based on the page. This is basically referring to the view pager. This is the page adapter. Okay, page adapter get support fragment, tab layout get tab count. So it means that how many tab that we like to have, and then set the page listener for the view pager, and also tab layout, add tab on selected listener when you select on that tab. And for the add on tab selected listener, there are 3 override method that you can use. On tab selected means that if the tab has been selected or unselected, you like to do any operation on that particular operation event, or you want to have tab reselected, means that when you go back to that same tab, reselected. So if you like to do something on that event, right, simple as that. So whenever you're done on that, run the application. So you can see tab 1, tab 2, tab 3, and you can even slide left, right. Okay, so each of the button here correspond to its own operation. So hello from fragment 1. If you want to fragment 2, hello from fragment 2. If you go to the fragment tab 3, hello fragment 3. So those are the basic operation for fragment. Right, so it basically only use one activity, referring to the main activity here. So if you refer to the manifest, there's only one activity registered in the manifest, and all other activity, all other operation here being handled by fragment. Okay, the way that you define the fragment, basically through the page adapter, we just based on the fragment get item, it return which tab they are we are referring to based on its position. Right, so that basically it for fragment using tab layout. Tab layout is very useful layout. There are a lot of applications that utilize tab layout. For example, WhatsApp, Messenger, or any other modern graphical user interface application that use tab for navigation. Right, so you can have like 3 different interface using single activity. So fragment cannot exist without activity. So you need to have at least one activity that basically going to host the fragment inside. So in terms of the performance, fragment is much faster compared if you are running on a different activities, or you have more than one activities. You're going to impact in terms of the memory consumption, resources that being used by layout. Alright, so those are for the fragment. So it's very basic. Of course, you can do a lot. If, for example, if you use slider view, where you can have like this hamburger menu, you can just click, and then those are also implement fragment. It can be used to implement fragment. So it means that one activity with sub layout. Alright, so thank you.